Peace is the new sustainability. Let that sink in for a second. It's a pretty bold claim, right? It suggests that maybe everything we've been working towards, in corporate responsibility, what if that's just the starting point, not the actual destination? Okay, let's get into it and really unpack what this all means.
Yeah, to kind of set the stage, just look at this quote from the Earth Charter. Notice how it weaves all these huge concepts together. It puts sustainability right there, side by side with the struggle for justice and peace. And that's no accident. It's a massive hint that maybe these ideas aren't separate goals at all. Maybe they're all just part of one single, much bigger objective for all of us. I mean, for decades, sustainability has been the gold standard, right? The goal we've all been told to strive for. But the source material for this whole explainer asks this fascinating question. What if we've been aiming for base camp this whole time, thinking it was the summit? What if the real peak is something else entirely? To figure out where we might be going, we first have to get a really, really clear picture of where we are right now. So in this first section, let's take a good hard look at the idea of sustainability as we know it and start to poke at some of its hidden limitations. And let's be super clear, sustainability has been an incredibly important map. I mean, it's guided thousands of companies to operate more responsibly, to think about their impact on the planet, on society. It basically built the entire field of corporate social responsibility. It's been absolutely essential. But this is where we start to see the cracks. This slide gets right to the core of the problem. You see, most of what we call sustainability lives in that left column, minimizing the negative stuff. We focus on reducing emissions, preventing harm, limiting waste. But what about the column on the right? What about actively creating a positive impact? It's a totally different mindset, not just being less bad, but actually being more good. And this quote, wow, it just cuts right to the heart of it, doesn't it? If your whole goal is simply to be a little less bad, well, you're still operating in the realm of bad. Sure, it's an improvement, but it doesn't fundamentally change the game. So if being less bad just isn't enough, where do we turn? Well, this brings us to the central idea of this explainer, finding a new North Star for business, something way more ambitious, way more proactive. And that North Star is peace. I absolutely love this metaphor. The old map of sustainability, it had a fixed destination. But what if we swapped it for a compass? A compass doesn't give you a final endpoint. It just gives you a constant direction, a guiding principle that is always, always pointing you towards actively creating good for everyone. Now, this is a crucial point. We're not talking about peace in that narrow sense of just no war. In this framework, peace is an active, living business principle. It's about building the systems, the relationships, and the conditions that allow for real, holistic well-being and shared prosperity to actually flourish. Okay, this is where we really get to the core of the whole idea. To use peace as our compass, we have to understand it in a much deeper, more nuanced way. We kind of have to deconstruct the common definition and then build it back up from scratch. And the source material gives us this incredibly useful 3-step framework. So let's break it down. Step 1 is weak peace. Now think of this as the foundation. It's about removing violence in all its forms, just creating stable ground. Then you build on that with strong peace. This is about actively creating the things we do want: justice, equality, health. And finally, the highest aspiration is holistic peace. This is trans-rational, which means it goes beyond pure logic. It's about embracing wisdom, a higher purpose, and a deep, profound sense that we are all in this together. So to really embrace this idea of peace as a goal, we also have to challenge a very, very old idea. What is the fundamental purpose of a business in the first place?
For a long, long time, this was the dominant philosophy, right? Famously summed up by the economist Milton Friedman. The idea was simple. The business of business is business. Its only social responsibility is to maximize profit for its shareholders. End of story.
But that has never been the only perspective. The great management thinker Peter Drucker offered this powerful counter-argument. He said, a business doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's an organ of society. And because of that, its purpose has to be found within society. So here's the crucial difference. Profits aren't the why. They're just a test. They're a sign that the business is healthy and valid. The real purpose, Drucker would argue, is the positive contribution the business makes. Profits are just the result of fulfilling that purpose well. They aren't the purpose itself. Okay, so we've got our new definition of peace and a new definition of what a business is for. How do we put them together into an actual, actionable path? The source calls it climbing the ladder of morality. The very first rung on this ladder lines up directly with our first level of peace. Fostering weak peace is the baseline. It is the do no harm principle in action. You're making sure your operations don't create or worsen conflict, corruption, or inequality. This is the absolute foundation.
The next rung up is all about fostering strong peace. This is where a company moves from simply avoiding harm to actively doing good. It's about proactive contributions, supporting human rights, creating value for everyone you touch, and taking real responsibility for communities and for the environment. And then you get to the highest rung on the ladder, holistic peace. This is about visionary leadership. It's about a fundamental mindset shift. It's about seeing business not as some machine for profit, but as a powerful force for elevating human consciousness, compassion, and collaboration on a global scale.
And all of this brings us to our final, pretty provocative thought. If we accept that the purpose of business is to serve society, and if we define peace as the ultimate framework for a society's well-being, then we have to ask this very serious question about any company out there. If it isn't in some way contributing to peace, then what is it really for?